I have never been in Poland, to be honest. I don't really know too much about the ecosystem here. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk to you today kind of generally and broadly about early stage startups. I assume that's where most people are. So these are tips. If you're an early stage startup, you're trying to grow, and you're trying to raise money, of course, here's a few tips. We are at Infoshare. I have info, and I'm ready to share. I am American, so I love talking about myself, but I'll make it as quick as possible. As our host mentioned, I'm the CMO of Appear.in. It's a video conference platform. We have about 2 million users every single month using our software, much like Skype, except it actually works most of the time. It's all about video meetings. Prior to this, though, I was actually doing a lot more investing. So I was with an accelerator in Oslo, Norway, and I was with 500 Startups, which if you don't know, 500 Startups is the biggest early stage fund in the entire world. We've done more investments than anyone has. I think they're at about 2,500 investments. I did about 100 investments for them. I've done about 40 personally or through other funds as well. So I've been on both sides of the table. I've been in operation and marketing, and I've also been in the investor side as well. So I'm going to give you tips from both sides. Let's get into it. The first thing is that if you're an early stage founder, you're trying to build your company and you suck at marketing, that's not a problem. Everybody sucks at marketing. Honestly, in this industry, everyone is really good technologists, you're really good engineers, you really understand blockchain or AI, whatever it might be. Marketing is always an afterthought. I meet so many great teams that have wonderful products, but the team is 3 engineers and nobody knows how to sell it. So if you suck at marketing, don't feel bad. Everyone else does as well too. Let's give you a few quick pro tips to get you started though. In marketing, you're going to need to try usually 10 things to find just one thing that works. It's also where I see startups fail. They put all their effort into one campaign. They spend 6 months on one partnership and it doesn't happen, and then they start to scramble and struggle and try and figure it out. A lot of people always come up to me and they're like, what's the secret to marketing? What book did you read? What blogs do you read? The answer is I read none of that shit. I just did trial and error. That is the only way to become a great marketer. Testing, learning, failing, and adapting. And whatever works, you double down, you do more of that. If you have a website, it doesn't really apply to mobile apps and hardware and other things, but if you have a website, 98% of the people that come to that website are not going to do what you want them to do. Like, that's a startling amount. You'd be lucky to have a 2% buy rate or a sign-up rate, whatever that might be. So think about that, and that's really what you need to focus in on. All those people that are coming to your website, downloading your app, engaging with your startup, but not doing what you want them to do, you have to be focused on trying to force them to do that. Doing remarketing, emailing them, finding out who they are, calling them. You have to really, really push hard. Even if you have a tiny amount of traffic, maximizing that will give you a lot more growth than just trying to add more and more traffic to it. Marketing really, though, it's all about moving emotions. And this is when I think about, like, I'll use a very American example, the Super Bowl. You know, our big American football game. Super Bowl commercials are a big deal. They're like $1 million a minute to buy those ads. They work when they touch on 2 or more emotions. And that's what they really do well. They tend to do nostalgia and other emotions as well. But like, as an American, yeah, these are some of my favorites. Yeah, desire and greed. Yeah, we all like that. The greed, by the way, is not my greed. I want to make more money. It's I want to save your business more money. I want to help your business make more money. Fomo. Does everyone know what Fomo is? This is kind of the guy. One guy knows what Fomo is. Okay, one girl as well. Good, thank you. All right, we got a few more. Fear of missing out. This, by the way, is what drives all of Silicon Valley. Silicon Valley will tell you that they're independent thinkers, but they're all following each other and they don't want to miss out. So you think about this in your marketing. You know, 1,000 other companies are using this tool. See what the Fortune 5 companies have learned from our software. You sort of sell this FOMO, this fear of missing out. Because your tool, whatever you do for startups, it should give your customers an unfair advantage. That's what they want. I use this marketing tool and I make better ads, I make more money. That's what you need to sell, and that'll bring in everyone else in the industry. Now, knowing your stuff, or at least acting like you do, that's also the secret of fundraising as well. I meet so many founders and I'm like, how do you acquire customers? How much does it cost? And they scratch their head and I don't know, it's $10 or $20 somewhere. I'm like, that's a huge, huge difference. So this is the key, because founders and investors, we like to think about these numbers and extrapolate them out to see if you have a business. I'll show you a few more specific examples later on too. What is a good pitch and a bad pitch? And this is my own sort of personal pet peeve. Please never say this phrase, "We did this with no marketing." A lot of founders think that's a really, really good thing. And I can tell you it absolutely is not. If you say we did this with no marketing, it basically means it's kind of working, we don't know why, and we certainly don't know how to repeat it. That's what the investor hears. And if you want another opinion, Mark Andreessen, one of the most famous investors in the world, did a whole tweet storm just about that phrase. So we don't say we did this with no marketing. As investors, we want you to do marketing. Marketing is a good thing. I know in Europe, and I'm in the Nordics right now, and marketing is a bad thing. It's bad to be a salesperson. It's bad to bug people. You're all way too modest. Marketing is a good thing. That's how you grow the business. Real quick, let's talk about how we don't grow the business. Staying in beta for way too long. Ever since I came to Europe, I've never heard beta more and more and more and more. I can tell you in California, we almost never say the word, because beta is also a signal. Beta to an investor means you're not ready. It's not live. You may not have things figured out. Also, like, staying in beta too long is really dangerous. This industry changes so fast. My view is the industry changes dramatically every 6 months. So if you're in beta for a year, the industry has changed twice during that time. Don't stay in beta. Get out there, and it's okay to fail. Someone on the previous panel talked about Americans love failure. It's absolutely true. Failure means learning. I know that's a bit harder in Europe, but it's true. Having lots of meetings. No. Having lots of meetings with thought leaders and so forth? No. Not going to help your business. Designing kick-ass logo and startup t-shirts and all that junk? Not going to grow the business. Whenever I see startups spending too much money on that, all I think is you could be buying Facebook ads. You could be going to an expo and having a booth. It's a waste of money, to be honest. And then, of course, listening to conference speakers that claim to have all the answers. Wink, wink. I don't have all the answers either. It's up to you. You have to figure that out. But this is really how we grow the business. And where startups fail is they typically start at step number 6, which is like, we know exactly what we're going to do, and we're going to systematize and build everything right now. We're not even going to talk to anyone. We're just going to build, build, build. It's the wrong way to do it, because what you're doing is you're building something without validation. You don't have enough information, enough data. So in every accelerator program that I've worked in, I actually teach people to start more around finding the levers that make people buy. Okay, there's a pain point, an event happened. If we have freemium users, they have to do these actions, and then we push them to buy. You need to really think about those levers. And then you do a lot more experimentation. You do brainstorming, and I'll show you a nice little method for doing that in a second. You actually start prioritizing, and I'll show you how to do that as well. And then we test as quick and cheap and fast and dirty as possible. We don't build too much. If you go to your engineers and say, we need to build this, they're going to say, that'll take 3 months. The reality is it'll take them 6 months, and you're losing a lot of time. You really just want to think about, how do I validate something fast? And you can validate most businesses with a simple form, with a landing page. That allows you to get customers, to get leads, to talk to people, to really figure out what they want before you start building something too rigid and lose a lot of time. Another thing too, this is from my old boss at 500, and it's called Startup Metrics for Pirates, because it goes R down the side there. And this is also super important. We talked about, you don't just acquire users. A lot of startups acquire a bunch of users. Oh, they didn't do what we wanted to do? Okay, go get a lot more users. Okay, keep getting more users until it works. But you really need to think about activation and retention. What do you do to get that user actually locked in? So you probably, as an early stage company, don't have a lot of traffic. You do everything you can. You use tools like intercom, send them the right messaging, force them to take the actions that makes them activated. You watch and make sure you're not losing users. A churn rate can be devastating to a business. So you make sure, if you can notice when people are not logging in as much, when they're not taking the actions as much, you're sending them marketing, you're sending them messages to come back. Hopefully you also can do some referral. That happens after activation. I go to so many websites and I immediately sign up and it's like, recommend this to your friends. And I'm like, we just met. I'm not comfortable doing that just yet. I have to get more value from it. I'm going to move kind of quick, because as usual, I'm talking way too much. I talked about how to do an experiment backlog and prioritization. Maybe you've seen this. It's the most easy, effective way to do something like this. And if it's hard to see, all we're doing is we're listing as many ideas as we can down the left side. We then give it a score. What is the impact? 5 being the highest impact possible. And then the next score is, what is the complexity to do that? And now we're looking for minimal complexity. Like I talked about, anytime you're building code, building platforms, building stuff, It's going to take 2 to 3 times longer than your developers say it will take. That will slow you down. And then all we do is we multiply those two numbers. That gives us a priority. This is a great way to solve arguments within the team. Oh, should we build this? Should we do that? Should we do this? Super simple formula. It's called ICE. It's called Pi. It's called Brass. It's called different things. And you can find these templates. If you just type an ICE template, you'll see a lot of great versions like that. All right, let's get to the good stuff. Let's get to investors. Now, first and foremost, like investors, we invest in momentum. I see so many founders meeting with investors way, way too early. You have to understand that investors will always meet you. They will always be nice to you. That is our job because we don't know. Even if you have nothing today, maybe in 6 months you have a really great company. So we'll never be mean to you. We'll always meet you. We'll always be nice. Doesn't matter to us. That's our job. It's literally just to like meet people and have expensive dinners. That's all VCs do. We're happy to keep meeting with you and talking to you because then we can watch and see how your business is doing. But if you're doing this too early, you're wasting time. We really want to look for momentum. And if you're going too early, if you start hearing this phrase, oh, it's just too early, it's just too early, that is our get out of jail free card. It's the nice way to say, like, I have zero interest in this company, but I don't want to make you mad in case you do good. I want you to come back. Now, investors also hate when you learn on our money. We want you learning on the last investor's money, not ours. So if you haven't learned how to grow the business, if you don't understand your customers, way too early to be talking. This is a bit of a saying in Silicon Valley as well, that when you want money, you ask for advice. It seems a bit weird, but it's very, very true. Now, I get about 1 to 10 emails per day, literally, of people trying to pitch the company. And they always just ask for money. The ones I actually really read and sometimes respond to are the ones that are looking for advice. So a much better way to do outreach, hey, I notice you have an interest in this sector. I notice you used to work at PayPal, and I'm doing a new type of digital wallet. We'd love to get your advice and take a look at it. Investors love this much more because it's a much more soft approach. It makes it feel like we can add value, and it just doesn't make you feel like you just have your hand out trying to get money. So think about that. Ask for advice when you want money. It often leads to money because that gets the first meeting, we start sharing information, the relationships gets built, and then you actually can pull the trigger and get money at a later time. Let's go through some really bad pitches. We're almost ready to launch. We just need to hire more people and do a bunch of things first. Awful, awful pitch. What that says to the investor is that, listen, I need your money. I'm going to spend it all. I'm not really going to get anywhere, and then I'm going to come ask for more money. So this is really, really bad. I'll give you another example after this of the right way to say this. We need a hands-on investor who's going to do this and help us with this and give us X, Y, Z. I think investors love to say they're hands-on. The reality is most are not. Investors are running around doing lots of deals, having lots of meetings. And investors don't run your frickin' business like you run the business. So if you want an investor to run the business, you're looking in the wrong area. That's not what we do, and that's not what a good investor does. An investor is there to like be a shoulder to lean on, to help you, to support you, not to do things and not to run the business for sure. Yeah, I saw you invested in a company that's very similar to ours, so I'm sure you want to meet us. I get this pitch all the time. You have to understand that if an investor has made a bet on one type of company, on one industry, they're not usually going to make a second bet. It's actually the most mean thing you can do to your portfolio is to invest in someone similar. Because you're basically like, yeah, I don't know if I believe in you anymore. I'm going to try this other team over here and see how they do. So once again, that's a bad, bad pitch. It's also true with venture funds. If a venture fund has invested in a very specific industry, a very specific type of company, they're not going to double down. It's very, very rare that they would do that. Let's look at some good pitches. We're growing the pipeline 20%. We've identified 3 new ways to further grow the business. We're selling the momentum. That's what really gets investors excited. Okay, there's momentum. We kind of want to invest when the business is starting to go and then drive the business further. So we're looking for that momentum. I say 20% because that's just kind of a good baseline. If you have a little bit of traction, growing 20% when you're a big business is really, really hard. But in the beginning, you should easily be able to grow 20, 30%. That's a little bit of a metric that we're kind of looking for. We talked about this like, I need your money to hire a bunch of people. Bad pitch. This is the good version of it. We just signed a new deal. We need to strengthen the team to satisfy that demand. That's what investors want to hear. It's like, okay, shit's happening. They're starting to make money. They're hiring someone to immediately address a company. Now, it's up to you, and you can kind of have a little bit of gray area there. Maybe you haven't signed a big deal, maybe you just have an LOI, but that's okay. Like, that's what it is. This is the business of like fubbing a little bit to try and get that meeting. And then, yeah, the best one too, like we just passed our first 100 customers, we just made our first 100 euros, doesn't matter what that number is, we know how to get the next 10x of that number. Once again, we've learned something. We didn't just sit on waste our previous investors' money. We didn't just sit in our hands. We've learned something. You give us the money, we know how to spend it. That's really what we want to see. Now, I want to talk about this just because I know there's a lot of companies that are pitching on stage, and I'm going to be on the jury a little bit later as well. This is the ultimate pitch if you're on stage and you're trying to attract investors. So it's called the traction sandwich. Yeah, we're Americans, we like to eat a lot of hamburgers. But as you can see, traction is on the top and the bottom, and I'll explain that in a little bit. Now, the reason traction is first is because when you're pitching to an audience, people lose a lot of interest very, very, very fast. So there's very few of you on the phone, so this must be a decent talk. I'm glad to see that. But you'll notice when you're pitching, like if you don't hook that audience right away, they doze off. They're doing their email, they're checking Tinder, they're just doing all the kinds of other stuff. She's on Tinder right now. Like they're just not looking. So you have to really hook that person right away. And what hooks an investor? Traction. Stuff is happening and I want to tell you more about it. A lot of on-stage pitches, they get up there and they say, great, let me tell you a story for 4 minutes that has nothing to do with the business, and you'll have no idea what we do. That's when you lose the audience. You have literally 15 seconds to like hook them, get them excited. So you start with traction. My name is Sean. I've made Uber for delicious pastries. We deliver pastries to you on demand. We've done 1,000 orders this month, and we're growing 20%. Then I go into the pitch, get people excited. Let's keep going on this. Next, problem. And the problem is the most important thing. I would actually say spend more time on the problem than the actual solution. The problem is also the opportunity. It's how big the market is. You know, this market sucks. They do everything on paper. We digitized it, whatever that might be. This market has 100 million people that we can work with. You got to sell the opportunity. That starts to get them excited. Then you move into solution. In solution as well, talk about why your product gives the unfair advantage. Why is it unique? Don't show me a bunch of screenshots. First of all, you can't see screenshots when it's up on a thing. You have no idea what's going on. And screenshots are not defensible. Because you made a pretty button, like, doesn't really matter. Anyone can do that. It's more about why is this unique and why is this really, really special. Going on to the team, obviously that's important. Early stage, you don't have a lot of numbers. We're making a big, big bet on the team. So I want to see everyone's beautiful face. I want to know very clearly what their title is. I want to see what previous companies they've worked at, so good logos. And that team slide, like the most important thing is that that team should feel complete. Like I joked about it, I know I'm being a little bit mean to the engineers, I'm sorry. But like a team of 3 engineers is not a great startup. We want to see someone doing dev, someone doing marketing, someone doing sales, someone doing community. You know, it depends on the business. But that's what I would think about on your team slide. Does the core team look like it's in place? Does it feel like they have the beginning of, you know, the management team here in place? Also on team slides, don't care about board members, don't care about advisors. I'm not investing in those people. I'm investing in the team. So I see so many slides where it's like, here's our 20 advisors, and it's like, great, you convinced 20 people to put them on a slide. I don't know what they do for the business. Final piece, traction again. And the big reason, and it's okay to even say the exact same thing you said in the beginning, but the reason that comes at the end is because that's when you're leaving the stage, and that's what you want people to remember you by. They may lose track, yeah, I don't know, they were doing something with healthcare, but if you walk off the stage and be like, yeah, wow, they made €1 million in the last year and they're continuing to grow, that'll stick in the head of the investor a lot more than your beautiful design and logos and all this other junk too. So that's why we just reiterate, we reinforce that you have traction and that you're ready for investment as well. Oh, I actually finished a little bit early, and I think that's the last slide. Yes, finally. In closing, this guy is Gaping Void. He's a very famous comic in Silicon Valley and America as well. You should know that when you go for funding, yeah, we know you're a bit desperate, and we're a lot like sharks. We can smell the blood in the water. So I would actually encourage you as you build the businesses. I don't know what the venture capital scene like is in Poland, but I would do everything I can to build a business where you don't need venture capital. Honestly, and I know that sounds weird coming from an investor, but if your business is growing fast enough, if you're making enough money, trust me, the VCs will come to you. They will come find you. And that's a much easier way to close than you trying to desperately email them or grab them at an event as well. So don't always think that VC is the solution. Don't always think that even all the free money you have here in Europe is a great thing. Be much, much better if you focused on building your customer base, making money, and just building a great product. And with that, I'll say goodbye. And thank you very much. Have a good event.